what the incentive would be to make these people disappear.
It's espionage. Some hostile foreign country is trying to gather information that's useful, that will put them in a better footing, whether economically or, in this case, missile propulsion and space exploration.
It's scary. It's something that will make people wonder whether or not they're getting the full picture. And at this point, we don't have the full picture.
Hey guys, it's Jackson Buhai with TMZ here. Today we're going to cover something a little bit differently that we think deserves a little bit more coverage in major headlines. Now, since 2024, numerous scientists relating to private government programs regarding jet propulsion systems and weapons development have gone missing. Soon you'll hear from Chris Swecker, who is the former assistant director to the FBI, giving you a little bit of broad background to the case. Then you'll hear from Alex Capriello, who is a national correspondent to News Nation, who is going to talk about two very specific instances of these disappearances. I'm joined by Chris Swecker, who is the former assistant director of the FBI and currently a practicing attorney at law. Mr. Swecker, thank you so much for joining me today.
I thank you for having me on the show. Interesting topic.
Of course. Yeah, definitely an interesting topic to say the least. Now, what would you say is the running theory here? Are all of these disappearances connected to one specific project, or is this just one giant conspiracy theory?
Yeah, look, I'm grounded in my experiences in the FBI and even my legal background. And even though I ran all criminal investigations, I had a lot of exposure to counterintelligence and intelligence investigations. And what I can say is that these disappearances and these deaths opened the door because of the work that these scientists and these assistants were working on. It opens the door to the potential that other hostile foreign intelligence services have targeted them, either for total elimination or for kidnapping and extraction, and trying to take any technology they can away from them in terms of the knowledge of the projects that they were working on. And this has been going on since the Industrial Revolution, industrial technology, economic espionage, espionage between countries, gathering information that's useful, that will put them in a better footing, whether economically or militarily, or in this case, in missile propulsion and space exploration. So it opens that door. I mean, there are other remote possibilities that are going on, but my mind goes to espionage.
Interesting. And so could you give us an idea as to what the incentive would be for whether it be our own government or foreign governments to make these people disappear? Is it for information?
Yeah, jet propulsion in particular. I mean, at least three, I think, were involved with the Jet Propulsion Lab, Los Alamos, and then two classified Air Force bases, all working on missile technology, propulsion technology, space exploration, engines and metals that go with all of that. So what could be happening? Look, I don't believe in a lot of coincidences when it happens 8 times over. So it's certainly something that the FBI, the primary counterintelligence agency in this country, has to be looking at. And that is the possibility that Iran, Russia, China, even Pakistan or North Korea, other hostile foreign countries they don't even have to be hostile. They just have to want our technology, are trying to either kidnap or, in the case of kidnapping, to try to get information about the projects they've worked on and get access to all that technology. Or in some cases, they may even want to eliminate a scientist that's involved in a critical technology area, which has been done by the Israelis vis-a-vis Iran and Iraq in the nuclear technology area. And we did it after World War II in our race with the Russians to get nuclear power and nuclear weapons.
Now, I've been looking at this case extensively, and it seems like a trending conspiracy theory online, if you would call it that, let me know if you would, is that this jet propulsion technology is linked to extraterrestrial life that might not be of this world. What do you make of those theories?
Yeah, I mean, it's great fodder for conspiracy theorists all across the globe. And I think this is something that lights up the internet and lights up all the chat rooms, and it gets people going. Because, I mean, you don't hear anything from the FBI. This is sort of spontaneously generated, and it's gone viral in the internet and across social media. So I think that it is something that's the subject of conspiracy theories, I think a more likely, and I'm going by likelihood here, based on my experience, more likely thing, if anything is happening at all, is it's espionage. And that's a big term. Espionage means some hostile foreign country or some other foreign country is trying to gather information or to do countermeasures. In other words, try to torpedo or interfere with or disrupt some of our technology development in the missile, jet propulsion, metals, space exploration, what have you. I mean, space exploration is a big deal. Whoever gets, masters that realm, if you will, in space is going to sort of control communications. It's probably the most critical technology right now.
Interesting. Now, in regard to these disappearances, we see cases where people are leaving all of their belongings at home and wandering off and never being seen again. We're seeing people going for hikes and disappearing. We're seeing people allegedly committing suicide. Um, how often is it that a foreign agency will stage suicides, will take people off the street and leave all of their belongings at home? Is this something that is common? In intelligence.
I think anything goes in that world, in the world of intelligence gathering or counterintelligence. Counterintelligence is what the FBI does. We're the spy, or the FBI are the spy catchers. The
Mm,
CIA are our spies. So we have the equivalent of, if anything's happening here, again, I have to caveat that it's some CIA from some foreign country hostile to us who's trying to gather this technology to themselves to find out what we know, get the
mhm,
same advancement levels that we have, and perhaps even reverse engineer it. So, I mean, that is the most likely scenario here. You can go to other places, but it does this. The question is, does this happen all the time? Kidnappings, missing people. I think there were well over 1,000 cases of that after World War II, and that
mm,
that push pull between Russia and the United States in trying to gather and master the nuclear weaponry. So it's not unheard of. It's gone on between Israel and Iran and Iraq and the United States and Iran. It happens in the background, and there are no rules in this area. So anything goes. Kidnappings, murder, missing people. I mean, this goes on all day, every day. I'm not talking about the murder aspect of it, but the intelligence gathering part of it does. But
mm.
anything goes if it's the type of critical technology that we're talking about here.
And during your time at the FBI, did you ever solve a case of a missing person that was of importance to, areas akin to aerospace or jet propulsion systems, to where this person disappeared? Can you give us an example, if so, of how they conducted the crime or the kidnapping?
Yeah, I'd be hard put to come up with an example because
Mhm.
it would be classified and it'd still be
Okay.
subject to the same classification guidelines and rules that I dealt with when I was still in the FBI.
Mhm.
But I will caveat also by saying my realm was criminal investigations and cyber investigations. But
Mhm.
I can tell you that it's not. I'm not going to say it happens all the time, but it happens.
Interesting. This technology that we may or may not be in possession of in the United States, if we were to put it to use in a conflict such as the one we're in right now with Iran, what does that implicate for the opposing country? Is it extremely powerful? Does it decide who wins or who loses wars such as the one we're in right now?
Oh, it certainly can. I mean, missile and propulsion technology. He who has the upper hand in that area is more likely to win and control the skies and control the communications and space and that and all of that, all of the above. I mean,
Mm,
that's the essence of gaining the upper hand in military operations today is
mhm,
communications and propulsion missile technology. How far and how fast a missile can travel, what kind of payload it can carry, what kind of metals can hold that missile together, going supersonic rates of speed and all of that. So yeah, that's why I
mm,
say this is some of the most critical technology in the world today. It has dual use. It has uses that don't, that transcend war making and war fighting.
mm.
It has great civilian uses as well. But the fact, it's just like nuclear power, it can be used for good and it can be used for war.
I'll ask for the people that really want to know, because I know I'll get slandered in the comments if I don't. Do you think that we obtained technology from an extraterrestrial source, and that is what we have built our jet propulsion systems off of?
Well, the honest answer to that is I don't know.
Mhm.
I doubt it. I think we have great scientists here. Not sure we need the assist. Um, but I've seen a lot over the years, and I wouldn't rule anything out. But I think that's the most remote of possibilities.
I completely understand.
You know, I know the conspiracy theories are out there. They're fun to bandy about.
Mhm.
They're fun to talk about. But I really, if you look back post World War II and even during what we called the Cold War era, and then even past that into the dealings between us and Israel and Iran on their nuclear technology, we've taken out their scientists.
Mhm.
Kidnappings take place. It does happen. Israelis are pretty proactive with it. It happens.
Mhm.
And I don't think I don't know that something is actually going on here. But when you have that many disappearances, particularly the ones that went off hiking and you never saw them again,
Yeah.
I feel like the FBI has got to be on this. And if they're not, it'd be professional negligence if they weren't.
Mr. Swecker, thank you so much for joining me today. So now I'm joined by Mr. Alex Capriello, national correspondent to News Nation. Mr. Capriello, thank you so much for joining me today.
Good to be here with you.
So for starters, there are about 8 disappearances that investigators are looking into. They're possibly connected. We don't know for sure yet. But you seem to be focused on 2 specific instances of these disappearances. Who were the people that disappeared, and what can you tell us about them?
So essentially, my investigative journey started off in Albuquerque, New Mexico at the very end of February. A lot of people have heard this story because it's quickly gone viral. It's a very bizarre case of a missing Air Force general. He's been retired for several years. His name is General William, but he goes by Neil McCasland. And his case is really particular and very strange because not only is he a very important figure when it comes to the history of our United States military, specifically its UFO and UAP programs, but also it went viral because his disappearance was just a very large mystery. Essentially, he was inside of his home early one morning, a Friday morning in late February. His wife went to a doctor's appointment, and by the time she returned for the doctor's appointment, he was completely gone. And investigators have been on the scene. The FBI has gotten involved. Everyone is looking to find out what happened to General McCasland, but no one really has a very good idea or picture. On top of it all, there's no video surveillance, there's no photographs, there's nothing that shows him leaving his house, walking away from his house, going any particular direction. Even more strange is the fact that he left certain things behind, assuming that he left on his own will, things like his prescription glasses and his cell phone, but he decided to take his gun. These are things that are very out of character for General McCasland. We're told, at least at first, that he was not suicidal, that he wasn't depressed, and that he was clear-headed. Now we're hearing more and more new details from investigators, but that's what really launched my own investigation, sort of the blueprint of where things started, and slowly a spider web of sorts have sort of come together, a bigger picture which shows more and more connections to General McCasland of other people that have also gone missing or have ended up deceased, all within the last 2 to 5 years.
And tell me about that spider web. Where did that take you?
Yeah, so it started originally with a tip about a young woman by the name of Monica Reza. She was somebody that actually worked and had work that was funded in part by the U.S. government that was overseen by General McCasland when he was an Air Force general. So in that regards, they were essentially co-workers. They worked together. He oversaw her work. And about 9 months before General McCasland went missing, Monica Reza went missing. She was hiking out in the Angeles National Forest. By all accounts of the people that she was with, it was a normal day, a normal hike. She had, by the last witness who saw her, she was seen smiling and waving during that hike. The next thing you know, he turns around her hiking partner and she's gone. And there was an extensive search and rescue effort to try to find Monica Reza. And her body was not recovered and is still not recovered to this day. So again, that's about 9 months before General McCaslin went missing. And ever since then, sort of both my investigative team at News Nation, as well as admittedly a lot of internet sleuths out there that looked at these weird and strange cases and started to uncover what seems to be just a very mysterious pattern of other scientists and professionals, both military and in private sectors, that have extensive knowledge on rockets, on jet propulsions, on deep space. A lot of these people are privy to classified briefings and intel. Most certainly General McCaslin was. And a lot of these other people just have very strong and deep knowledge and intellect about very personal matters in a way that it's making a lot of the public really wonder if they truly know the full picture of what's going on here.
Interesting. And yeah, I have it here that Monica Reza is probably where the suspicion starts to pick up. And like you said, internet sleuth starts to uncover this pattern of mysterious disappearances, Now, it says that she was a scientist linked to NASA projects. Do we know exactly what NASA project she was on or what she was researching?
So she worked at the NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory. She was the director of materials processing, but she's most famous for developing a very special type of metal, a type of alloy that's used in rockets. This was something that the United States, for the longest time, had not sort of nailed down in their own sort of research and development and technologies. So much so that we were relying on foreign inventions and foreign products within our own American-made rockets, until Monica Reza came along and she invented this special type of alloy that's used in rockets. And that's the basis of the project that was funded by the U.S. government, that was overseen by General McCaslin. So that's sort of the connection between the three. But she's just one example of a scientist that has connections either to, NASA, to the Jet Propulsion Lab, or to various Air Force bases that all fall within this sort of category of mysterious deaths or disappearances.
So there was actually a direct connection between Reza and McCaslin. Really interesting. And so in McCaslin's case, you mentioned all of his belongings were left in his house except his firearm.
Yes, and obviously that doesn't look good. That looks perhaps like somebody that's maybe suicidal or is no longer in touch with their own realities. And what's been a bit confusing and disturbing about this is the information that's coming out from law enforcement regarding General McCaslin's disappearance has been a very slow trickle and not a steady stream. So, for example, he first went missing and there was very little information about it. Everything that we had heard was that he was sharp as a tack and that he had no sort of behavioral challenges to him. Then the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Department hosted a press conference, and for the very first time they used the word mental fog, that General McCaslin was going through a mental fog, and we had never heard that before. We don't even really know what that means. They wouldn't elaborate on it, but all of a sudden that's a new sort of symptom, so to speak. But during that same press conference, I asked the sheriff point blank whether or not General McCaslin was suicidal, was depressed, was thinking about harming himself, and the sheriff replied very matter-of-factly, no, none of that. Now, it's only just been within the last week or so that even more information has come out, specifically from the 911 call from General McCaslin's wife when he first went missing, in which she indicated to the dispatch operator that she believes that General McCaslin left with the intention of not being found again, and that he had expressed, at least partially, some ideations of not wanting to live any further. So this is what I mean, where it's an investigation, and yes, you have to protect the integrity of the investigation so that way people don't get ahead of themselves. But those are very critical facts and details, and when you allow multiple months to pass with slowly reporters and investigators getting these details only because they continue to push, well, then that creates a situation where rumors and conspiracies can really grow and flourish in a way, because it's now been several months without that critical information coming out ahead of time.
Right, and I completely agree with you, but I think it gets to a point, especially with internet sleuths, where when it happens once or maybe twice, that's a coincidence. But when 8 scientists linked to studying projects in NASA and jet propulsion systems that could perhaps mean the difference between winning or losing a war go missing, people start to see that as more than a coincidence. And, you know, another case that really piqued my interest, and I think it's following a trend here, Melissa Kaisis, who worked at the Los Alamos National Laboratory, is another one of these people in connection with these projects that just up and left their house and didn't bring any of their belongings with them. And that happened in multiple other cases as well. So I think the question would be, who's doing this and why?
No, I think that's a fair point. I think that's the reason why I have been encouraged by others to keep my, ear to the ground and my nose on the trail, to keep digging, to follow the leads and the information and the money in some cases, if possible. Melissa was a great example that you brought up. She's not the only one from the Los Alamos National Lab that's up and vanished. Same with Anthony Chavez. He was a former employee till about 2017. He's also missing, and both he and Melissa went missing within a little bit more than a month apart from each other in 2025. So that's two people within about 1 month period that previously worked at Los Alamos National Lab that are missing without a trace. Not to mention General McCasland, who's up in the Albuquerque area, not far from the Los Alamos National Base. He's also connected to those two missing persons, and he's also vanished without a trace. So you're not incorrect. It's scary. It's something that will make people have their ears perk up. They'll listen a little bit more closely, and they'll wonder whether or not they're getting the full picture. And at this point, we don't have the full picture, and that's why it's up to investigators and internet sleuths to do what they can to make sure that we shine a light on their stories.
Mr. Capriello, you've been so informative and fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Appreciate it, Jackson.
Of course.